In 2026, the most dangerous fairy tale you've ever been told is that compound interest will make you a millionaire. We have been spoon-fed the same mathematical fantasy for decades. Just invest $500 a month into an index fund, wait 40 years, and thanks to the magic of the compound interest curve, you'll retire on a beach with $3 million. It is the ultimate financial sedative. Society tells you that your lack of wealth is a result of your lack of patience, that you just need to wait for the curve to kick in. They are lying to you. The truth is that for the vast majority of the population, the first 100,000 isn't a milestone on a curve. It is a mathematical impossibility designed to keep you on a treadmill of high-tax labor and low-yield consumption. The system doesn't want you to reach the compounding phase because that's the moment you stop being a productive debt slave. Today, I am going to prove to you with brutal, cold-blooded arithmetic that the magic of compound interest is a structural illusion. I'm going to show you why the first 100,000 is a meat grinder that most people never exit, and how the system uses inflation, taxation, and the survival gap to ensure your money never actually begins to compound. You aren't failing at the game. The game was rigged to make sure you never reach the starting line. The reason you fell for this trap is rooted in a psychological phenomenon known as linear bias combined with the lottery fallacy. Our brains are wired to understand linear growth, 1 plus 1 equals 2. We struggle to visualize exponential growth, so when a bank or a wealth manager shows us a graph that curves sharply upward in year 30, we enter a hypnotic optimism. The system exploits this by framing the struggle as a character flaw. If you aren't wealthy yet, they say, it's because you didn't start early enough or you aren't disciplined enough. This is survivor bias at its most toxic. They show you the billionaire who lived on lentils for a decade, but they never show you the millions of people who lived on lentils and still got wiped out by a medical bill or a market correction before their curve ever turned upward. You have been validated by a society that prizes the hustle while ignoring the fact that the cost of entry into the compounding class has risen by 400% in the last decade. The system was designed to keep your capital pre-critical. Just like a fire needs a certain temperature to become self-sustaining, wealth needs a critical mass to compound faster than the system can steal it through inflation and taxes. By keeping you below that $100,000 threshold, the system ensures that your money is always at risk and your labor is always for sale. It is not your fault you feel like you're running in place. You are fighting a headwind that is specifically calibrated to match your speed. Let's look at the hidden math that the fire-and-forget investment gurus conveniently omit. We are going to look at scenario A, the good soldier. We will call him Tobi. Tobi earns $75,000 a year in 2026. He's disciplined. He saves 15% of his income, which is $11,250 a year, or about $930 a month. He puts it into an S&P 500 index fund. According to the Standard Lie, Tobi should reach his first $100,000 in about 7 years. But let's look at the systemic leakage Tobi faces. Out of that $75,000, 22% goes to federal and state taxes immediately. Now he's at $58,000. His rent in a modest city is $24,000 a year. His groceries, which have inflated by 30%, cost him $8,000. His car, insurance, and fuel cost him $7,000. His student loans and basic health care take another $5,000. Tobi is left with $14,000 for everything else. To save that $11,000, Tobi has to live a life of total deprivation. But here is the meat grinder math. Over those 7 years, the cost of living, inflation, is averaging 6% in the real world, not the doctored government numbers. While Tobi's account grows at 8%, the real value of his money is only growing at 2%. In 7 years, Tobi finally hits the $100,000 mark on his screen. He feels like he's made it, but because of inflation, that $100,000 in 2033 only buys what $65,000 buys today. Tobi hasn't reached the compounding threshold. He has just barely kept pace with his own poverty. He is still one check engine light or one downsized department away from total liquidation. Now, let's look at scenario B, the truth. To reach a critical mass where interest actually changes your life, you need your interest returns to exceed your cost of living. If your cost of living is $50,000 a year and your portfolio returns 7%, you need $714,000 just to stay even. That is the real first milestone. The first 100,000 is a distraction. The system wants you focused on a small number so you don't realize how far the real goalposts have been moved. While you are trying to compound your $900 a month, the government is printing money at a rate that devalues your savings faster than the interest can grow them. The magic of compound interest only works for people who already have enough money to ignore the cost of bread. For everyone else, it is a slow-motion treadmill. Consider the real-life case of Tobi. Tobi is 32. He has $40,000 in his 401k. He's told he's doing great. Then the 2026 reality hits. Tobi's landlord raises his rent by $400 a month. Tobi's insurance company hikes his premium because of market adjustments. Tobi's car needs a $3,000 repair. To cover these costs, Tobi has to stop his contributions. The magic curve he was promised instantly flattens. Because Tobi didn't have the critical mass of liquidity, his compounding was interrupted. This is compounding interruption theory. The system knows that life is volatile. It knows that for 90% of workers, a major life event will occur every 5 to 7 years that forces them to tap into their savings or stop contributing. Every time you stop, the curve resets. The bank, however, never stops compounding. Your mortgage interest compounds every day. Your credit card debt compounds every day. The system is designed to compound your liabilities while interrupting your assets. Tobi spends his entire life trying to reach the curve, but he is constantly knocked off the track by a system that ensures he never has enough defensive capital to protect his investments. Tobi is the fuel for the compound interest that the banks are enjoying. The reality check is this: you cannot save your way to wealth using the standard 90 to 5% advice in a high-inflation, high-tax environment. The first 100,000 is a trap if you try to reach it through deprivation alone. To beat the system, you must adopt an aggressive offensive. First, you must understand that the magic of compound interest is a secondary power. The primary power is income velocity. In 2026, a 7% return on $10,000 is $700. It's a rounding error, but a 50% increase in your skill value could be $30,000 a year. Your greatest compounding asset is not a brokerage account. It is your human capital. Stop obsessing over a 2% dividend yield and start obsessing over the yield on your labor. Second, you must build a fortress of liquidity before you ever think about the magic curve. You need $30,000 in boring, accessible cash to act as a shield. This money isn't there to compound. It's there to ensure that when life hits, you don't have to touch your compounding assets. Third, ignore the diversification trap for small amounts. Diversification is for preserving wealth, not creating it. When you have less than $100,000, you don't need a balanced portfolio of bonds and international stocks. You need concentrated bets on your own ability to produce value. Fourth, realize that the first 100,000 is a mental game. The system wants you to think it's the end of the struggle. It's not. It's just the point where the math finally stops working against you and starts staying neutral. True compounding begins when your assets can pay for your basic survival. The compounding interest lie is a scam because it exploits your hope for an easy future to make you accept a miserable present. It turns your most valuable years into a sacrifice for a beach retirement that inflation will ensure you can never afford. You are being sold the dream of exponential growth, so you don't notice the linear theft of your life's energy. Your index fund is not a ticket to freedom. It is a long-term loan you are giving to the corporate world at a rate that barely covers your own devaluation. If you want to be truly free, you have to stop waiting for the curve and start building the engine. Real wealth is the ability to walk away from any situation because your assets produce more than your needs. The magic of compound interest is real, but it's a luxury reserved for those who have already escaped the meat grinder. But the first 100,000 trap is only the first layer of the control mechanism. The same people who told you to wait 40 years for your growth are the ones who convinced you that renting is throwing money away, while they trap you in a 30-year mortgage that will cost you $900,000 for a $300,000 house. If you think the compounding lie is bad, wait until you see the math on the mortgage scam that is currently harvesting the last of the middle-class liquidity. Stop being a patient victim. Start being an impatient architect of your own value, because in a system designed to outrun you, the only way to win is to change the speed of the game.